back to Anything and Everything. Today I'm making braised beef shanks. We're going to be using fresh rosemary and sage, bell pepper, white and red onion, celery leaves, carrots, garlic, thyme, peppercorns, bay leaf, and some meat seasonings. This meat seasonings here, I just make my own. You can just use salt and pepper if you like, but my family's pretty extra. They love the flavor of rosemary, so I have a mixture of rosemary, salt, pepper, garlic powder, and onion powder in here. So you can make your own flavorings, whatever you want to put on your braised beef. The best part of this braised beef is going to be your bone marrow. So make sure you don't cut it and take it out, take it off the bone. I leave it in there because we love the flavor. Now it's going to bring your meat a lot of flavor, plus you can eat the inside of that bone marrow. The first thing I want to do is I'm going to season my meat and get it ready to sear. So I'm going to cut this a little bit here, this fat that kind of wraps around it, because if I don't, what happens is it starts to twist the meat a little bit when what I do is just give it a little snip so that when I sear the meat, it lays flat and it doesn't turn up on you. It's not really a big deal if it does, because once you put it in your pot, it doesn't really make a difference. So I'll do one and one I won't, just so that you can see the difference. What I'm gonna do is just season this meat pretty good here. I'm sure there's many different recipes out there on how to make this dish, but this is the way we like it. The first time we've had this was when we were at Disneyland and we ate in the restaurant off of the Pirates of the Caribbean. My husband loved it, so I decided to try to come up with my own recipe, and here it is. Now you're going to want to have a really nice bottle of wine, not just to drink, but to add to your pot as a liquid while the beef is braising. So I chose this wine. I guess you can use any cooking wine that you like. I just had this available, so that's why I'm going to use this one. So we're going to sear our beef. So I'm going to add a little bit of oil to the pan. Now you're not trying to cook the beef, but you're just trying to get a really nice toasty brown sear to it. It can take you anywhere to 3 to 5 minutes per shank. I try not to crowd my pan because I like it to have that brown mark, because the brown marks is really going to flavor the broth that you make. All right, so I'm gonna leave that there to cook and start on my veggies. I turned my sink over. After about 3 minutes, I'm gonna let it get golden brown on that side and around the edges. And then I'm gonna put it inside of that pot there. And I'm gonna keep doing it until I complete all of the 4. All right, I have all of my veggies cut. I have my wine ready. Now your veggies, you don't have to cut them pretty, anything like that. It's just a rough course. You want to make sure that your garlic stays chunky because this is going to give a good flavor to the meat. And the meat is actually going to simmer or braise for about 2 to 3 hours. So you want to leave them big so that they don't fall apart and things of that, and they're able to give some good fragrance. The same as all of your thyme and rosemary. I only use the leaves of the celery because that gives a really good flavor, fragrance. And the onions, we will saute them before putting them into the pot, and we will deglaze that pot, the same pot that we are searing the meat with the onions. So let me show you. So this is what I was talking about. The meat seems to roll up a little bit when you don't cut off those edges or that, you know, the fat edge. It doesn't really matter. You know, this meat is going to end up being so tender that it's pulling away from the bone, so it does not really matter. I just like to be able to do it so that I get a really good sear all over the meat. And when it lays flat, it seems to work out better. So this one, I'm just going to put in the pot, and I'm going to continue on with the rest of them. So as you see, this is the piece of meat that I did cut the fat away from it, or the edge away from it, and so it's laying flat. But I didn't do this side over here, so it's kind of rolling up, as you can see. Again, doesn't really matter. The way I cook it, this meat pulls away from the bone anyways. I don't serve one whole shank to a person. I let it really fall apart and serve it that way. Okay, I'm back. Searing up the last shank here. Okay, I'm gonna put it back in, I'm gonna put it right in here in this pot, and I'm gonna use the same pan. I'm gonna put these onions in it. add my garlic. You can go ahead and add your veggies to the pot back here. All of your herbs. The thyme. Your bay leaf and some peppercorns. Go ahead and add that to your pot. Into the onion and garlic. I'm going to deglaze it with some wine now. This is what it looks like so far. Now I'm going to add the wine and the onions. Now at this time you can add some water or some like beef broth, but what the heck, I said to add some wine, so let's add the wine. The whole bottle. All right, and so we are going to let it simmer for about 2 to 3 hours. Now you want to keep looking at it to make sure that you still have enough juices. I am going to probably add a little bit of water. I'm going to add some water to the pot. We want that the liquid is covering the meat. Okay guys, this is what it looks like. You're going to put a top over it and you are going to let it simmer on a very low heat for about 3 hours. This is what it looks like after simmering for 2 hours. Now I'm going to add a little bit of salt to it. I tasted it for seasonings and I think it needs some salt. So I'm going to go ahead and add some salt. And I'll get back to you as soon as it's done. Okay, you guys, the meat is done. The beef shank is done. I'm gonna try to just remove just the beef shanks and put them into this bowl here. Now what I'm going to do is take some of this broth and strain it so that we can make a little gravy. All right, I'm going to just thicken up the broth a little bit. So I'm going to put some flour here in this pan. I'm just going to brown it. I'm going to take some of the broth from have a pot of potatoes boiling because we're gonna pair this up with some mashed potatoes. So I want this broth to be a little bit thicker. I'm gonna put a couple of cubes of butter in it, just to have get it to a real glossy look. I'm gonna let it simmer a little bit, get thick, and then I'm gonna put the meat into this pot. Once you have the meat back into the pot that you created the sauce, just reduce the heat and let it simmer for about another 20 minutes or until the sauce or the broth is as thick as you want it. Now I'm going to want mine a little bit thick because I'm going to use this as my gravy over the mashed potatoes. So that's what I'm going to do, but you can do it the way you want it to do it. Now I know that, I keep removing all of these pieces of vegetables. You can leave them in, but at this point, they're pretty soft. They're very, very soft. So if you want to leave them in, leave it in, but I just took mine out.